These are players that you need to trade for on your fantasy football teams before week 1. Go to your league right now and send some offers for these guys. We have pretty good suspicions these guys are all going to do well in week 1. So if you pick them up now, get them on your roster, you're going to be sitting pretty for the rest of the season. Do us a huge favor, drop a like in this video, and make sure you subscribe if you play fantasy football. But let's get into the first guy here. We're going to have Josh Jacobs here. And Josh Jacobs obviously has that backfield to himself now, right? Marshawn Lloyd came out. He's not only been injured, but they've come out publicly. Matt LaFleur's come out publicly and said basically that Marshawn Lloyd's got a long way to go before he's going to make an impact in that backfield. And that speaks volumes, not to mention, again, a guy that was considered maybe to go on IR, is not on IR now, but is injured, is probably not going to play. People are scrambling to find who's going to be the next guy up in that offense because Marshawn Lloyd's not going to be available. And you have A.J. Dillon going to IR. And so going to a matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles this week, it expects to be a high-scoring matchup. The Vegas point totals are above average for that one. So you're going to expect to see that this matchup is going to yield a lot of points. And with that, you're probably going to see some pretty heavy touchdown upside for Josh Jacobs. Now, you're already starting Josh Jacobs in your league if you have him, so that's a given. But Josh Jacobs' price, as the offseason has kind of gone on, has been pretty good. You saw him going in the mid to late third of your fantasy football drafts. And I think the clear running back 1 role that he's getting, along with the clear third down role he's going to get now, along with what should be an improved Green Bay offense in a matchup in week 1, when you're looking at it, 48.5 is the total point spread for that matchup. This is set up to be a shootout where Josh Jacobs gets every single valuable touch and snap in this game. I want pieces of this offense, but I especially want Josh Jacobs. He has the opportunity, he has the skill set, and he has the game situation now to perform immediately right out the gate from week 1. So I'm going to take advantage of that. Josh Jacobs now, while we didn't like him early in the offseason, projects to be probably a top 10 running back this year if he's able to keep control of the third down snaps in Green Bay. And so I want to take advantage of the price before it goes up. I'm going to trade for Josh Jacobs in week 1. Some guys that I'm willing to trade for Josh Jacobs. I'm willing to trade any elite quarterback for Josh Jacobs. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. If I can get Josh Jacobs for one of those guys and I'm playing in a 1 QB league, I'm making that trade. Wide receiver like Michael Pittman, I would trade for Josh Jacobs. Stephon Diggs, I would trade for Josh Jacobs. Tank Dell, I would trade for Josh Jacobs. DJ Moore, I would trade for Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs is a guy in a year where you're expecting running backs to have a little bit of a bounce back year. Josh Jacobs is a guy I want to get my hands on right now, get him on my roster, and make sure I have him for week 1 in fantasy football.
Yeah, we're also going to tell you to go ahead and grab Tank Dell before the start of the season because his week 1 matchup could not be better. It's a division rival. It's against the Indianapolis Colts. We're big Colts fans. We're also honest with our favorite team, and that is their secondary is buns. And CJ Stroud, like he has been since he came into the league, is going to cook that secondary, and that will involve Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, but mainly, in my opinion, Tank Dell and Nico Collins because they're going to be able to push the ball downfield consistently. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Vegas believes so as well. I think it's like the 3rd highest-scoring game expected to be in week 1 is the Colts and the Houston Texans. And with Tank Dell, you know the reason that he's been going at such a discount all offseason is because Stephon Diggs is now in that offense. Nico Collins gets that big extension. Everyone expects Nico Collins to be the #1 option there. And whether or not that's true, I don't really care when you're looking at the first week of the season when everyone's trying to figure it out. Defensively, they're trying to figure it out. And offensively, Houston really kind of has it in the bag, right? The only new guy that they've added in that offense is Stephon Diggs, and that's only going to make them better. And Joe Mixon, which is only going to make them better. I think they're going to be clicking on all cylinders from week 1, and they're probably going to be able to get all 3 of those guys involved, all 3 of those receiving assets involved. I think you're going to see them be primarily passing all game. And especially when you're looking at the flip side with the Colts and their run defense versus their pass defense, they were top 12 last year defensively against the run game, and in the passing game, not so great, not even close to as good. So I think you're going to see Houston focusing really on just lighting up the Colts secondary, and I think Tank Dell is going to reap the benefits. I mean, you saw him as a rookie last year just go absolutely bananas in his first game against the Colts, and he would have done that again if he was healthy at the end of the season as well. So expect him to have a really, really solid week 1.
The last time the Colts won in week 1 was 2014.
Yeah.
That should tell you all you need to know. I mean, the Colts suck in week 1. They're playing a division rival. They're playing C.J. Stroud, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Every single one of the receivers.
They're incapable of rising to the occasion.
And it was Jacksonville last year, right? And it was Ridley that went off
which is an automatic L.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And remember, everybody
Nico Collins to have a good game. Tank Dell is a little less popular, but you're not only having to start him everywhere if you own him, but you also should go ahead and buy him because I think he's going to have a big game and people are going to be excited about that and probably value him higher than they have all off season.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the game that I started with, and I'm going to go Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers now. Again, we expect the run game to have a big game for Green Bay. I expect the same of the passing game. With the Eagles, they were one of the worst, from a fantasy perspective, one of the worst defenses against wide receivers last year. They allowed some of the most points to both quarterbacks and wide receivers last year. However, you do have them going and improving their secondary. Adding Cooper DeJean, adding Quinyon Mitchell there, the secondary is going to be better. However, both of them are rookies, right? You've got 2 starting rookie cornerbacks in Philadelphia going against Jordan Love and 4 wide receivers that the Packers have admitted that they think are all wide receiver ones. They don't know which ones to pick. They don't know who to start. They like Wicks. They love Dobbs. They really like Watson. And Jaden Reed's the guy, right? So with that receiving core against that defense being a little bit more young and inexperienced and also coming off a year where they were really bad against wide receivers from a defensive standpoint in fantasy football, I'm going to take advantage of Jordan Love. Now, some examples of some trades I'd make for Jordan Love. If you've got Patrick Mahomes, I'm down tiering to Jordan Love plus. Okay? If you've got Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, those guys have rushing upside, so that's a little bit different. However, if I can get a lot on top of Jordan Love, I'm doing that. Joe Burrow, I'm moving him for Jordan Love. Dak Prescott, I'd be willing to move him for Jordan Love. I mean, I think that all of those guys have just as high a ceiling, if not more, than Jordan Love. But Jordan Love is going to have a better schedule, especially early in the season. They grade out as one of the best schedules this year. The red zone offense was one of the best last year. It's an offense set up for success, and I want pieces of this offense because even when Jordan Love really statistically last year wasn't anything special, he was still fantasy productive. That should tell you all you need to know going into this year.
Yeah, I think the value of QBs in fantasy as well is probably the most inconsistent across the board when you're looking at just, league to league. How do they approach quarterbacks? Do they like investing in backups on top of their starters? Are they pushing them up boards, taking them earlier? I mean, we've seen Jordan Love go as high as the 5th round. We've seen him go as low as the 10th. So again, this is going to be very dependent on how your league values QBs. Generally in home leagues, people like their backup QBs and their backups to backups QBs. But if you're in a league that's smart and is going to, let QBs fall a little bit more, sometimes even a little further than they should, Jordan Love could be a really, really great down-tier target there where people would actually give you quite a bit on top, like Avery's saying. The next guy that we're going to have here is DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is playing Tennessee this week, and the reason we are so excited about a lot of people in Chicago, but mainly DeAndre Swift, is Mike Vrabel is no longer the head coach for the Tennessee Titans. Hooray. That means that their defense is not nearly going to be as smash mouth and tough as it has been in years past. Why do I know that? Because all offseason, since the Titans went out of their way to go hire Brian Callahan and fire Mike Vrabel, they have heavily invested in the offensive side of the ball. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't really matter. They wanted to build weapons and protection around Will Levis. That means that they sacrificed defensive competence. They're still not awful defensively, but I would definitely be weary of hoping that Tennessee is going to actually have a good week defensively and not let Chicago score the ball on them consistently.
Yeah.
And I think DeAndre Swift is going to reap the benefits of that when they're going to be focusing, Tennessee is going to be focusing on the best weapons in that offense, and that's DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and yes, even old and fat Keenan Allen. DeAndre Swift is kind of going to be the afterthought there. And with his explosive ability, here's what we know for sure. DeAndre Swift starts seasons better than he ends them. Always. I mean, last year in Philadelphia's offense, he went bananas for like the first half of the year and then fell off, just like everyone else in that offense did. He always starts well, just like he did in Detroit his entire time in Detroit. Expect that again this year in a pretty good situation where the more weapons there are in an offense for DeAndre Swift, the more it opens the field up for him and he's able to be pretty productive. And week one, you're going to see that, I think, right out the gate, and there's going to be a lot of excitement around his name again.
So you are not buying any of the Khalil Herbert stuff?
Absolutely not. Right. I could not care less. There's been Khalil Herbert stuff for the last 4 years. And what has it led to? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
I mean, do you have are you serious? Are you buying the Khalil Herbert stuff?
I'm like, I don't know. I think he could
You're
take away.
kidding
I think
me.
he could take away enough from Swift.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
I think
wow.
so. I think so. I think you saw the way they were both being used. Like, I feel like they're going to split snaps. If Herbert's the one that's getting the red zone touches, then, I mean, if DeAndre Swift isn't scoring touchdowns, then in that Bears offense, like, I don't know if I trust him enough. But
Well, this isn't a long-term conversation. This is a week one conversation.
I'm iffy on whether Herbert's going to actually affect him. I wanted you on the record saying you absolutely didn't think so, because
I absolutely don't think so.
There we go. We got it on the record. Let's go Cooper Kupp now. Cooper Kupp playing the Detroit Lions in week 1. Obviously, a Matthew Stafford-led offense with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams is going to come out firing. You saw it last year. Puka Nacua in week 1 had 20 targets last year in his first game in the NFL. I mean,
oh my gosh.
You can bet everything that Matthew Stafford, that Sean McVay, they're going to come out slinging it, especially in a game where the total points line sits at 51 points, the highest of any game this week. I want pieces of every single one of those offenses, the Rams and the Lions, in my starting lineup this week. Cooper Kupp's a little bit of a harder trade target, although we do have him on a buys video, because his price really has slid up here closer to the actual NFL season in your drafts. However, send a feeler out for Kupp. If it's in the range of guys like Waddle and Nico and Debo and Olave and Adams, I'm like, eh. But if he slides down in the next tier and you're able to get him for guys like Mike Evans, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, those guys, I'm good with that. I'm good with pivoting to Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp obviously has to stay healthy this year. We understand all the questions he has. However, this is a game where I'm even betting, you know what? I would say Jameson Williams could be a little bit of a buy for week 1, because what are the odds that he gets some off-the-top play where he scores 9 points in one play, gets 2 more receptions, and scores 12 points, and everybody says, J-Mo's the next Tyreek Hill? I think it probably could happen in this game, right? And so
I mean, he's a borderline. He might be in our start videos.
He might be in our start video because somebody's flexible this week.
Yes, absolutely.
So every piece of those
I have no
offenses,
issue starting him this week.
Yeah, every piece of those offenses I want to start this week.
Yep.
And Cooper Kupp, again, it's going to depend on the price. But if you can go to your league mates and convince him that he's old, slow, and he's going to get hurt, maybe you can take advantage and get a good price for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and we're going to keep this trend of the Rams and Lions game. I think this is going to be an awesome first week of primetime matchups, and we're going to have Sam Laporta next. I think Laporta's price preseason has gotten a little bit too low for my liking, where he's going in the middle of the 4th round. I mean, I guess not too low for my liking. It's low enough that I love it because I can take him there. But I mean, I love Stephon Diggs. I'd rather have Laporta. I love Michael Pittman. I'd rather have Laporta. I really, really, really like Rashee Rice. I'd rather have Laporta. Seriously, there are pretty much every one of these guys going in this range. I prefer Laporta because he's probably going to be the tight end 1 overall this year. If not, he'll still be top 3, and his ceiling is incredibly high in that offense that's built for him and Amon-Ra St. Brown specifically to produce, and Jahmyr Gibbs obviously. But I think with Sam Laporta, you're going to see him produce and have a really good game week 1 because of that. Again, that Vegas line being the highest scoring game of the weekends, Laporta is going to be able to get a lot of that opportunity on the Detroit side of the ball, and he's finally going to be priced accordingly, right? And he's finally going to be treated like the tight end 1 overall, like he should be, when we've started to see people get cute at the tight end position and take other tight ends over Sam Laporta because the offense is crowded. I mean, we just saw this last year, guys.
Yeah.
Like Laporta was a tight end 1 overall last year with a crowded offense, and nothing has changed. They haven't added anyone, so they're going to be totally fine. He's going to be totally fine, and don't be surprised if he again finishes as a top 3 tight end pretty comfortably week 1.
Let's go same game. One more from this game. I know it's a lot, but let's go David Montgomery now.
This is less popular.
Because this one's not as popular. David Montgomery has been going in fantasy football drafts a lot of times down in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, and you're looking at David Montgomery, a guy who scored a significant amount of touchdowns last year and was still very fantasy productive, right? I mean, in an offense with Jahmyr Gibbs splitting snaps last year, he was the running back 13 in half PPR leagues. And it was because he had 13 touchdowns. Do I think David Montgomery can repeat and get 13 touchdowns again? Yes. Here's what I want out of week 1.
Absolutely.
Here's what I'm going to tell you why David Montgomery is a good buy right now. Because in week 1, what I want to see is Jahmyr Gibbs get all the usage on 3rd downs and get receiving usage, and then get in the red zone, and Jahmyr Gibbs gets a handoff and he scores. And you know what's probably going to happen? Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get him there, and Dan Campbell's going to be like, bright kneecaps, let's put David in there, and David's going to score. That's probably what's going to
That's
happen.
why they signed him. That's why they brought him in the first place. They're going to do the exact same thing that they did last year. Get ready for it.
And it does not to say Jahmyr Gibbs won't be productive. Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute must start every week. Elite. He's better than David Montgomery is. It's just David Montgomery is really cheap, and he's still a guy in that offense that's going to score touchdowns. In a game this week that projects to have 4 to 5 touchdowns on each side.
I swear, when he gets 2 goal line touchdowns this game, people are going to lose their freaking minds.
And he's pretty cheap. So with Montgomery, it's going to be league dependent, but he's down here going like by Najee Harris and James Conner, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, or Mondre.
Yep.
I mean, if you subscribe to the fact that you should have running backs on good offenses instead of running backs on bad offenses, David Montgomery is the cheapest running back on a good offense you can find. He is.
Yep.
And Mostert is one of them as well. But outside of that, all the guys down here suck for the most part.
Yes.
So I'm taking advantage, especially going into what should be a complete shootout. I'll take David Montgomery, and I'm going to bet he scores a couple touchdowns in week 1.
I think Jonathan Gannon deserves a lot of credit making a practice squad level defense like upwards of average last year in his first year as a head coach, when he was expected to kind of be a one and done and a sham of a hire. He deserves a lot of credit for making them at least competent. That said, the Buffalo Bills are playing the Arizona Cardinals week 1, and I expect this to I think it'll be an interesting game, but I think Buffalo offensively is going to have their way because of Josh Allen. And pretty much Josh Allen. So Josh Allen is going to do what he wants. He's going to get the ball to Dalton Kincaid. He's going to get the ball to Khalil Shakir. And Khalil Shakir specifically is going to be the guy that we think you should buy before week 1. I think a lot of people are going to get excited about what Khalil Shakir could do for the rest of the season when they see him produce week 1 against a defense that really is just not that great, because they have so many holes and still so much need at every single position on the defensive side of the ball. Even with Gannon as a defensive head coach, I just don't see Josh Allen and Khalil Shakir not connecting and clicking on all cylinders week 1 when they already started showing signs of that at the end of last year. What does this mean long-term for Khalil Shakir? I don't really know what his ceiling is. I don't really care. These are buys before week 1, expecting the public opinion of these players to increase after they perform in week 1. So with Khalil Shakir, I think everyone's going to say, oh, he's the alpha. Oh, he's the number 1. Oh, he's going to be consistently dominant in that offense and get a majority of the targets. Sure, you do you. I'm telling you that you should not only be starting Khalil Shakir 100% in week 1, but I think he's a buy and a solid investment because his price isn't unreasonable either. Like, there's a lot of guys going in his range in the later rounds. Like, I just expected him to go way higher in the offseason than he ended up going. I think he's a very reasonable price. I mean, he's being priced right by Josh Palmer, Chase Brown, Brian Robinson, Zach Moss, Singletary, Tyjae Spears. I mean, these are a bunch of players in worse offenses that are going to get less consistent volume than an exclusive slot wide receiver. So be ready for that.
There you go. There are 8 buy candidates before week 1. So send out some feelers. See if you can't get a really good deal for some of these guys. If they perform week 1, you hit the jackpot. If they don't, you hold them, you write it out, and you see what they do the rest of the season. But these are all guys, when you're looking at how they project, every single one of these guys for the rest of the season, they're going to project at least decently. We wouldn't be telling you to buy them if they didn't. So do us a huge favor. Make sure you drop a like on this video. Make sure you subscribe if you play fantasy and you want to stay ahead of your league mates this fantasy football season with us. And also, when you draft your fantasy team, and if you draft your fantasy team, get a team blueprint from us, which is a comprehensive breakdown of your fantasy team. It includes positional grades. It includes where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are. It includes moves you need to make, where your waiver priorities should be. Everything you should need to know. Your risk, your safety, you got to get that balance. We'll break down your team personally. flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain. Choose the Mother Flocker tier with code domain, and you get a free one of these, as well as our rankings, the start sit capabilities of the site, all of our exclusive content, the My Teams tool, every single one of it. So you get, again, annual Mother Flocker tier with code domain. You get all that, and you get one of these free team blueprints for one of your fantasy football teams. You can also get them on the site, a la carte, if you'd like to. But we appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.